चरम्भोजम्
भावनिर्जितचेतसा
भावनिर्जितचेतसा
उत्कण्ठ्याश्रुकलाक्षस्य
उत्कण्ठ्याशुकलाक्षस्य
हृद्यासीन्मेषणैर्हरि।
विद्यासिन्मेषणैर्हरि।
प्रभुजी,
ध्यायत्सश्चरणाम्भोजम्
ध्यायायश्चरणाम्भोजम्
भावनिर्जितचेतसा
भावनिर्जितचेतसा
उत्कण्ठ्याशुकलाक्षस्य
उत्कण्ठाशुकलाक्षस्य
हृद्यासिन्मेषणैर्हरि।
हृद्यासिन्मेषणैर्हरि।
Anyone else? Please, Prabhu, Prabhu.
ध्यायतस्य चरणाम्भोजम्
ध्यायायश्चरणाम्भोजम्
भावनिर्जितचेतसा
भावनिर्जितचेतसा
उत्कण्ठाशुकलाक्षस्य
उत्कण्ठाशुकलाक्षस्य
हृद्यासिन्मेषणैर्हरि।
हृद्यासिन्मेषणैर्हरि।
Mataji, please, you can have
ध्यायतश्चरणाम्भोजम्
ध्यायायश्चरणाम्भोजम्
भावनिर्जितचेतसा
भावनिर्जितचेतसा
उत्कण्ठाश्रुकलाक्षस्य
उत्कण्ठाश्रुकलाक्षस्य
हृद्यासिन्मेषणैर्हरि।
हृद्यासिन्मेषणैर्हरि।
ध्यायतश्चरणाम्भोजम्
ध्यायायश्चरणाम्भोजम्
भावनिर्जितचेतसा
भावनिर्जितचेतसा
उत्कण्ठाशुकलाक्षस्य
उत्कण्ठाशुकलाक्षस्य
हृद्यासिन्मेषणैर्हरि।
हृद्यासिन्मेषणैर्हरि। Read transliteration. Dhyayata,
ध्यायत
thus meditating upon.
thus meditating upon
Charanambhojam,
Charanambhojam,
the lotus feet of the localized personality of Godhead.
the lotus feet of the localized personality of Godhead.
Bhavanirjita,
Bhavanirjita,
mind transformed
mind transformed
in transcendental love
in transcendental love
for the Lord.
for the Lord.
Chetasa,
Chetasa,
all mental activities,
all mental activities,
thinking,
thinking,
feeling,
feeling,
and willing.
and willing.
Utkanthya,
Utkantha,
eagerness,
eagerness,
ashrukala,
ashrukala,
tears roll down,
tears roll down,
akshasya,
akshasya,
of the eyes,
of the eyes,
hrithi,
hrithi,
within my heart,
within my heart,
asita,
asita,
appeared,
appeared,
me,
me,
my, Sanei,
Sanei,
without delay,
without delay,
Hari,
Hari,
the personality of Godhead.
the personality of Godhead.
Translation. As soon as I began to meditate upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, with my mind transformed in transcendental love, tears rolled down my eyes, and without delay, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, appeared on the lotus of my heart. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki
Jaya.
The word bhav is significant here. This bhav stage is attained after one has transcendental affection for the Lord. The first initial stage is called Shraddha, or a liking for the Supreme Lord. And in order to increase that liking, one has to associate with pure devotees of the Lord. The third stage is to practice the prescribed rules and regulation of devotional service. This will dissipate all sorts of misgivings and remove all personal deficiencies that hamper progress in devotional service. When all misgivings and personal deficiencies are removed, there is a standard faith in transcendental matter, and the taste for it increases in greater proportion. This stage leads to attraction, and after this, there is bhav, or the prior stage of unalloyed love for God. All the above different stages are but different stages of development of transcendental love. Being so surcharged with transcendental love, there comes a strong feeling of separation, which leads to 8 different kinds of ecstasies. Tears from the eyes of a devotee is an automatic reaction, and because Sri Narad Muni in his previous birth attained that stage very quickly after his departure from home, it was quite possible for him to perceive the actual presence of the Lord, which he tangibly experienced by his developed spiritual senses without material tinge. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती नामिने श्री विशाखानावि देवी दायिने कृपाब्धये कृष्ण संबंध विज्ञान दायिने प्रभवे नमः माधुर्योज्वल प्रेमाद्य श्री रूपानुगा भक्तिदा श्री गौरा करुणा शक्ति विग्रहाय नमोस्तुते नमस्ते गौरवाणी श्रीमूर्तये दीनतारिणे रूपानुगा विरुद्धाप सिद्धांत धर्मधारिणे नमो गौर किशोराय साक्षात् वैराग्यमूर्तये विप्रलंबर संबोधे पदम भुजायते नमः नमो भक्ति विनोदाय सच्चिदानंद नामिने गौर शक्ति स्वरूपाय रूपानुगावरायते गौर विर्भाव भूमि स्वं निर्दिष्ट सज्जन प्रिय वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथाय ते नमः वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौराभिषे नमः पंचतत्वमकं कृष्णं भक्तरूप स्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तिशक्तिकं हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्ते जयतं सुरतोपंगो नमा मंदरमते गति मत्सर्वशपदम्बोजो राधा मदन मोहन हो दिव्याबिंदरण्य कल्पद्रुमार्धौ श्रीमद् रत्नाकर सिंहासनस्थौ श्रीमद् राधा शीला गोविंद देवो वृषालिपि सेव्यमानो स्मरामि श्रीमद् रासरसारंभी वंशीवतकर्षितः कर्षण वेणुस्वने गोपी गोपीनाथ श्रीस्तुनः तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णु भक्ति प्रति देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः श्री नरसिंहा जय जय नरसिंहा प्रहलादेश जय पद्मा मुख पद्म भृंगा जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा dear devotees. Hare Krishna. Welcome each and every devotee here for our Saturday gathering. We all have gathered. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I think I'm audible. I hope I'm audible to everyone. Just not using mic as it is more comfortable without mic. So today, as we all are gathered here to discuss on Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 1, Chapter 6, a title as Conversation between Narada Muni and Vyasdev. So before I dive in, I just would like to begin today's discourse with a question. How many of you know about Narada Muni and Vyasdev? Or let me ask a question. How many doesn't know about Narada Muni or Vyasdev? Everybody? Narada Muni and Vyasdev? Do they share any relationship with each other? Yes. What is the relationship? Guru and Shishya, right? So who is Guru? Narada Muni. So before we dive into this particular discourse, I want everybody to know that Narada Muni is Guru of Vyasdev. And we all know that Vyasdev has compiled multiple literatures. He is considered to, even people who give, lectures or discourses all over the world, they are always determined as person giving a lecture from Vyasasana. So Vyasdev has always been a primeval personality for somebody who is guiding because of his nature of writing so many scriptures and literatures. But there was a moment when even after writing so many literatures, compiling so many Puranas, he was still not satisfied. उनको संतुष्टि नहीं हुई थी. उन्होंने सब ज्ञान लिखा, सब कुछ लिखा, but he was still not happy, not satisfied. And at that moment, Narad Muni, who is his guru, he appeared. And he actually inquired his guru. Vyasdev actually inquired his guru, Narad Muni, about this dissatisfaction, even after writing so many literatures and scriptures. Then Narad Muni asks Vyasdev a question. Have you described anything that only glorifies the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is Narayan, Vishnu, Krishna? And that's when Vyasdev realized that now I should dedicate my time to write something that glorifies the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, Narayan. And that's when the compilation of Srimad Bhagavatam was done. So Vyasdev compiled Srimad Bhagavatam at that moment. And after compiling it, that's when he got satisfied. That's when he felt that this is something that that will give pleasure to me. So in that moment, there comes a conversation where Vyasdev actually wants to know the past life of Narada Muni. And this chapter 6 actually revolves around the fortune of Narada Muni, the intimate relationship between Guru and Shishya, and the power of Sadhu Sangha. These are the three main, learnings from this particular chapter that we all can take after the discourse. So we'll begin with first few shlokas, and then we'll explain the in-depth of how Srila Prabhupada put up that in the purport. So Vyasdev, he asks his guru, Vyasa Uvacha, Bhiksu Bir Vipravasite Vignana Destrabhistava Vartamano Vayas Adye Tata Kim Akarod Bhavana. Sri Vyasdev said, what did you, means Vyasdev is asking Narada Muni, what did you do after the departure of the great sages who had instructed you in scientific transcendental knowledge before the beginning of your present birth? So, I know many of you would find which sages and all. So before this chapter 6, Narada Muni in chapter 4 and 5 describes about his past life. So past life means in last kalpa, a kalpa before this, Narada Muni was actually born to a family where they were they did not belong to a high class family. They belonged to a very low class family, and his mother was maid servant who used to go and work at people's places. But her mother was always in the mood of serving devotees, in the mood of serving sadhus. So Narad Muni was just 4, 5, 6 year old when her mother used to, invite devotees, invite sadhus, and serve them. And her mother was widow. So Narad Muni in his past life did not had any father. So only two people in the house, always serving devotees, and every time any devotee would come or any sadhu would come, Narad Muni would be asked to take care of that remnants, plates, and sometimes Narad Muni would even get a fortune of eating those remnants, that prasad of Lord, and prasad of even those devotees and sadhus. So remnants of those devotees and sadhus, serving them, eating those remnants. So prasad associating with devotees, and just doing that allowed Narad Muni to appear as Narad Muni in next Kalpa. And we hear this in multiple lectures and even from multiple senior Vaishnavas that serving devotees should always be the priority. And serving devotees in a specific time should always be more priority. And which is that specific time? A specific time in a year. Like it doesn't mean that you should not serve devotees in other time, but a specific time in that particular year, you should always make an effort to serve devotees, even if your life is at stake. Sorry, I know we are recording this, but it can give you a lot of fortune. Does anybody know what is that specific time of the year? Chaturmas, yes, Chaturmas. And Narad Muni specifically served in Chaturmas all these devotees that were coming to their house, serving them, eating the remnants. And just doing that in Chaturmas gave Narad Muni benediction of becoming a Narad Muni. Like right now, if we hear lectures, we have heard in many of the stories, and we would find a one character who is always there and trying to become a very important and integral part of that Leela of Krishna. And most of the time it is Narad Muni. We all know about Jagannath, like Lord Jagannath. We all know about Lord Jagannath. Lord Jagannath would not have been here in this material world if not for that promise of Narad Muni. Because we all know that when Rohini Mata was describing the amazing Leela of Vraja, Lord Krishna, Lord Balaram, and Subhadra Maiya got into trance. They went into ecstasy, and in that ecstasy, they assume a form, that ecstatic form of Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra Maharani. And who witnessed it? It was Narad Muni. Narad Muni witnessed it, and he said, I saw it. And then Krishna came to his, original form. And that's when Narad Muni requested. He's like, can you please allow all the devotees or, the people of material world to have this form of yours as a darshan. And that's how Lord Jagannath and Krishna did made a promise. And then we all know Indradumna Swami, entire story. Everybody played their role in the Leela. But that's the nature of Narad Muni. Would like to glorify Narad Muni before we get into that. So that is the nature of Narad Muni, to always long for devotee and seek mercy for devotee. Even though Narad Muni got that mercy of seeing that ecstatic form, but he still wanted to pass on that mercy to all the jiva, all the souls of the material world. So Vyasdev actually asks that, what did you do after the departure of the great sages who had instructed you in scientific transcendental knowledge before the beginning of your present birth? So he says this present birth that you have took as Narad Muni. But in the past Kalpa, as you explained, that you would serve devotees, they would come, they would impart some transcendental knowledge. But what would you do after that? Vyasdev was curious. We know right now, but at that time nobody knew this entire story. And that's when Narad Muni says, O son of Brahma, like Vyasdev is still asking, how did you pass your life after initiation? How did you attain this body? Attain this body means attain this body of Narad Muni, having quit your old one in due course. O great sage, time annihilates everything in due course. So, how is it that this subject matter which happened prior to this day of Brahma is still fresh in your memory, undisturbed by time? So, did you notice one thing? We just discussed that in chapter 4 and chapter 5, Narad Muni said Vyasdev about some part of his past life. So now Vyasdev is curious that you are Narad Muni in the present birth. But how do you still remember things from your past birth? So Vyasdev is curious. And Srila Prabhupada very nicely explained this in the purport. He says this. See, Narad developed this spiritual consciousness even when he had his material body in the previous kalpa. Consciousness of the material body means spiritual consciousness expressed through the medium of a material body. This consciousness is very inferior, destructible, and perverted, but super consciousness of the supra mind in the spiritual plane is as good as the spirit soul and is never annihilated. So, a spiritual consciousness, Srila Prabhupada explains that a spiritual consciousness that any person would have at a supra mind state would not annihilate. So, he would actually carry forward that. So, many of the very elevated soul would be able to notch down some of the past lives spiritual consciousness, not material consciousness, only spiritual consciousness. And then Narada said that the great sages who had imparted scientific knowledge of transcendence to me departed for other places, and I had to pass my life in this way. And I was the only son of my mother, who was not only a simple woman but a maid servant as well. Since I was her only offspring, she had no other alternative for protection. She bound me with tie of affection. So here comes a understanding that many of us go through. That many times our parents are so much, affectionate towards us, and there is nothing wrong in that. But that actually bounds us to that prema, to that love. Again, I'm not saying that that prema or that love is material, but at the same time, that affection binds you to some context that might even be a distraction in your path of spiritualization. Again, like how Narada Muni did, we also have to differentiate and come to the level on how we can maintain that love with our parents, but at the same time not get distracted in our path of self-realization of Krishna consciousness. So her mother was always taking care of her, looking after her, taking care of everything. But one night when she was going for the work, or maybe to get something for the household, she got bit by a snake. One night she was going out and it was dark, so she got bit by a snake. And because she got bit by a snake, she left this material world and went to the Dham. So now imagine, Narad Muni is just 5-6 years old. He is still affectionate with his mother. And all of a sudden this happens. But we always hear this, right? That sadhu sangha, sarva shastra kahe, lava matra sadhu sangha, sarva siddhi hoye. Because Narad Muni had that constant sadhu sangha with all the devotees that were going through the place and associating with them, he was still able to maintain that spiritual realization. Narad Muni actually mentions here that when I was a mere child of 5 years, I lived in a Brahmana school. I was dependent on my mother's affection and had no experience of different lands. And then explains that one day my poor mother died. And imagine this, you're 5-6 years old, the only person that longs for you or that is affectionate, that takes care of you is your mother. and all of a sudden, imagine that person leaves. What would happen? Like we all know, many of us also goes through that tragedy. We also go through that tragedy of not able to maintain that loving relationship when somebody passes, loving relationship with Krishna, or maintain that spiritual consciousness when somebody passes. We lament. But imagine this 5-year old, this situation happens in their life, and what he does, he takes this as a arrangement of Krishna. Narad Muni is giving all of us a lesson that such tragedies or such laws can be an arrangement of Krishna for bringing us closer to Krishna. He mentions very very nicely. Tada tad aham isasya bhaktanam sam abhipsata anugraham manyamanana pratistham disamuttaram. I took this as the special mercy of the Lord, who always desires benediction for his devotee, and so thinking, I started for the north. So imagine this, somebody all of a sudden leaves, he's just mere 5-year-old child. There is nobody around to take care of you. And even in that situation, you see this particular arrangement as a benediction of the Lord. So even for us, like in our life, many things happen, and we always have to keep this faith towards Krishna, that whatever would happen, maybe we can get, again, somebody might get laid off, somebody might lose their parents job, or very a kinsman, very close person. But always understand, those tragedies are the arrangements of the Lord. And in those situations, again, this is very easy for me to say this, but it becomes very difficult to maintain that. But I guarantee you, and even Narada Muni says this, Srila Prabhupada mentions this in the purport too, that if we would have faith that this particular arrangement or whatever tragedy has happened is the arrangement of Krishna, it is the benediction of the Krishna for allowing me to bring me closer to Krishna. If we would have that consciousness, and if we would have that faith, this is happening because it is Krishna's plans for something good, the more faith we would have towards that particular ideology, the more better it would happen with us. I think it's just a matter of time. It, like many times we go on a route, and sometimes that route is not right. The route is completely filled with all the difficulties, not easy to track down. But when we reach to the destination, and when we look back, we can see that that was the best route possible for us. Like many times, the connecting of the dots only happen when we reach to the destination. So this is what actually Narad Muni is implying. It's like we need to have a faith towards Krishna for anything that happens in our life, for anything that happens in our life. Krishna consciousness is not about making things easier in our life, just so you know. We are practicing this Krishna consciousness, following 4 regulative principles, not that it provides cushion to our material life. It is not for having the material comfortability in our life. It is to realize the higher truth. It is to create that connection with Krishna. It is to bring ourselves, bring this soul which is going in this material world, birth after death, death after. So we want to get out of that cycle and bring ourselves closer to Krishna. So that is the goal. The goal is not to have all of our things running smoothly. Like how Kunti Maharani says in her prayers. Kunti Maharani says in her prayers to Krishna, right? That may all this vipatti like miseries, come in our life. Why? Because if there won't be any miseries, if there would be a comfortable material life, or if there would be a cushion provided to our material life, there might be a chance that we might get distracted, or we would do the spiritual practices would be done. But always understand this. I have personally realized this. When everything is working fine, you would do spiritual practices, 4 regulative principles, 16 round chanting, everything would happen. But there are high chances that it might become mechanical. It might become mechanical means it might become a daily chore. It might become a task to accomplish something. But when there would be miseries in our life, like Kunti Maharani's point is that when there would be miseries in our life, when things would not be working fine, we would elevate our consciousness, and then there is just a matter of growing further. So therefore Kunti Maharani have those prayers, and even Narad Muni describes that this particular incident was like a boon, or was like a catalyst in a reaction. When there is a reaction, you add a catalyst, the reaction would happen, but a catalyst would play a role of violating that reaction. Like that reaction would have a huge impact with more efficiency. Similarly, Narad Muni sees this particular thing in his life, in his past life, as a mere mercy towards him for bringing him closer to Krishna. And then he goes for the north. So he goes for the north means in our India, when we say go for the north, means going to the spiritual hub like Himalaya. Because everything, like now it is all scattered around, but back then it was more centralized towards the northern part of the India. So Narad Muni starts his journey and he actually meditates. And today's sloka, Srimad Bhagvatam sloka that we just recited in the beginning of the lecture, that is like the epitome of this chapter. Because Narad Muni very nicely describes that he went through all the hills, all the mountains, he went through all the mines, he checked everything, and then he reached to the destination. He starts meditation and he actually experiences the love of Krishna, and it is described very nicely. Parisrantendriyatmaham tritparito bubuksita snatva pitva ride nadya upapristo gatasrama. Thus traveling, I felt tired, both bodily and mentally. So after doing all the traveling, Narad Muni was tired, and I was both thirsty and hungry. So I took a bath in a river lake and also drank water. By contacting water, I got relief from my exhaustion. After that, under the shadow of a banyan tree in an uninhabited forest, I began to meditate upon the super soul situated within, using my intelligence as I had learned from liberated souls. Means Narad Muni was learning all the spiritual practices from all the devotees that were passing from his house. So he knew the basics of a bona fide spiritual practice. What are the daily spiritual practice that I should imply on? So he started doing that. And at that moment, Jaya Yattaschana, this was the sloka, right? Jaya Yattaschana Bojam Bhava Nirjita Chetasa Outkanthya Srukala Sasya Didiya Sinme Sanir Hari. So translation was, as soon as I began to meditate upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead with my mind transformed in transcendental love, tears rolled down my eyes, and without delay, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, appeared on the lotus of my heart. So imagine this, a person, 5-year-old, I'm just trying to connect everybody to a story so we understand, goes through all the tragedy that any person would go through, the worst tragedy of losing a family member, a mother, who is the only person taking care of him. Then goes on the journey, keeps the faith that all of these are the arrangements of Krishna, keeps the faith that this is all arrangements of Krishna. It's like, there is a say in English, they say, it should go on. Like, there is a saying in the English, I am forgetting it, but it implies that
The show must go on.
the show must go on. Yeah, the show must go on. So Narada Muni had that. Even after all this tragedy, everything, like for us as well, any tragedies, any layoffs, anything that is happening in our life, our show must go on. What is our show? Sadhu Sangha, hearing Bhagvatam, hearing lectures, hearing from gurus, and then chanting. These three things, this should go on. And with that faith, Narad Muni began. He was tired, took a rest, started his spiritual practice, and that's when he realizes the form of Krishna. And what happened was that form of Krishna was just there for a moment, because on a very next sloka, Narad Muni says, "O Vyasdev, at that time, being exceedingly overpowered by feelings of happiness, every part of my body became separately enlivened. Being absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy, I could not see both myself and the Lord." And when is this happening? This is happening at mere 5-6 year old. He was just 5-6 year old. So what made all these arrangements come to in Narad Muni's life? What did you learn? We already discussed the reasons behind all this arrangement. Like, experiencing Krishna is not mere, is not like easy. Experiencing Krishna in this way is not easy, and that too for a 5-6 year old is not just by qualification, because Narada Muni was not from Brahmana family. So yes.
He was completely surrendered to Krishna.
He was completely surrendered to Krishna on top of serving devotees, sadhu sangha. And what does sadhu sangha provides? What? Ahetuki kripa, causeless mercy. Again, I'm telling everybody, doing austerities, chanting 64 rounds, chanting 16 rounds, doing vrata during Kartik and everything, that will definitely give you all the pious fur to you and will definitely bring you closer to Krishna. But when Krishna wants to take care of you, that would not happen with every devotee. That happened with Narad Muni. Krishna wanted to take care of him. Therefore, he came in his meditation for some time. So when would that happen? When Krishna would want to take care of us, then we would have causeless mercy. And we would only get causeless mercy through sadhu sangha, through constantly serving devotees. I'm telling you, chanting is very important. Recently, even Kartu Maharaj, when we were down south at Toronto, somebody asked a question about elevating in our spiritual journey, and Kratu Maharaj quotes this sloka: Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Kahe, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoye. So, this is a sloka from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Srila Prabhupada says in the purport of that sloka that lava, it says Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha. You know what is lava?
Later.
No, lava is a time frame. And you know what is that time frame? 1/10 of a second. 1/10 of a second. Not even a second. 1/10 of a second. So lava matra sadhu sangha, even 1/10 of a second, sarva siddhi hoye. It will bring fortune, it will bring glories. I'm telling you, all of you, again and again, many of us would see members in our congregation advancing so nicely, getting Gayatri initiation, second initiation, and many of them publicly says in our group that it's not our qualification. But that is the realization we all should go through, that yes, it is true. The sadhu sangha is working. It is their qualification. Krishna would have seen some eligibility. That's how that particular initiation got transferred to them. But you can see the power of association. How, like, with the power of association, such things become possible, which is like unimaginable. We would not imagine that would happen so quickly, right? So that is the power of sadhu sangha. Sorry, what I was discussing. Yeah, so Narada Muni had that, and because of that causeless mercy, Krishna wanted to take care of Narada Muni, and hence Krishna came in the meditation of Narada Muni, and then he disappeared. And Narada Muni said that the transcendental form of the Lord, as it is, satisfies the mind's desire and at once erases all mental incongruities. Upon losing that form, I suddenly got up. So as soon as Krishna disappeared, Narad Muni got up. And being perturbed as is usual when one loses that which is desirable, I desire to see again that transcendental form of the Lord, but despite my attempts to concentrate upon the heart with eagerness to view the form again, I could not see him anymore, and thus dissatisfied, I was very much aggrieved. So this particular shloka, this emotion of Narad Muni, actually describes the mood of a devotee. Like, Damodar Chambu was initially in the very beginning of the movement here in Sudbury, he was describing that, and now we can feel it. Because in the beginning, I hope you all would agree, when you were in the very beginning of your Krishna consciousness, you would see that you would like to do things, like you would like to chant. The chanting would give you so much pleasure. You would like to do so many services. You're like, this is it. This is everything. So same thing, Narad Muni experienced it. It's like, he described like his hands, his body was feeling those emotions. He was to the topmost mood. And all of a sudden, things start changing. So Damodar Chambu was saying, he's like, Krishna, what he would do is, he would give you the honey. He would give you the spoon of honey. You will taste that spoon. So while now you are tasting, now when that honey is on your tongue, is on your taste bud, you would enjoy that, right? Until that honey is on your tongue. But eventually when that honey disappears, you are like, it's gone, and now I want that honey. Imagine the first time tasting honey. Imagine a person has not tasted honey in his entire life and tastes the honey for the first time. Or every one of you, you have a favorite sweet, right? Someone might like Kaju Katri, Kheer, Lapsi, or something. When you guys tasted that for the very first time, you wanted to taste it again, right? And the more you long, the more excitement it brings. So Damodar Chambu was explaining that is the same principle in Krishna consciousness. Krishna will come, will give you that honey, will allow you to taste that honey, and then he would take it away. And the entire Krishna consciousness process, then we should have that longing. We should not be like, okay, honey has been tasted, now I want to go and taste something else, which is material. So Krishna will only give that honey back when we would have that longing. So we should have that longing to, chant Krishna's name, to serve devotees. Many of you might have experienced some time of your journey, in your spiritual journey, that you would chant so nicely. You would have that ecstatic chanting that would, connect you with Krishna, and eventually you will not feel the same. So that is actually the, analogy of honey. Krishna will take it away, and then you will feel that longing. So Narad Muni at that moment is feeling that longing. He's like, what happened? Where is that form of the Lord? I want to experience that form. And Krishna, we all know, is most merciful. Narad Muni is actually crying. He's crying and he's longing for this form. And all of us should learn one thing. Even Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes this in Shiksashtakam. Shiksashtakam is the only thing that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has composed. And we should all make an effort to recite Shiksashtakam every single day before we chant our rounds. But the 7th sloka of Shiksashtakam, what does it say? Yugayitam nimesena chaksusa pravasayitam sunyayitam jagat sarvam govinda virahename. So even that sunya, like sunya time from Govinda Viraha from Govinda, के भगवान के विरह से एक क्षण भी रहा नहीं जा सकता. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes that Vira is so high that we can't live without Krishna. And then in very next sloka he says, Aslisyava padaratam pinastumam adarsanan marmahatam karotuva yatha tathava vidadatu lampato mat pranas tu na Mad prana nastu
Teva.
teva. So in that last stanza, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very nicely describes that whatever happens in my life, whatever miseries come, whatever ups and downs comes, I want to cry for you. I want to, have that vipralamba, that longing to associate with you. So similarly, Narad Muni is experiencing that. Those two last sloka that we just heard, that is a very same thing that Narad Muni just experienced in a very recent uh, discourse that we just learned. Krishna came, gave that love, and all of a sudden he disappeared. And he felt that longing. So he's describing Vyasadeva that now Lord is, after saying Narad Muni, longing for Krishna, as I said, Lord is merciful. He is Bhavgrahi Janardana. What does Bhavgrahi Janardana means? All the efforts, he sees our bhav. He is attracted by our bhav. Ye yathamam prapadyante, right? Krishna says this in Bhagavad Gita, ye yathamam prapadyante. Like whatever efforts you would put in your Krishna consciousness, I would reciprocate with the same effort. So similarly, because Narad Muni was longing, Krishna had to come. And Krishna comes in his heart and he speaks, O Narada, I regret that during this lifetime you will not able to see me anymore. Imagine this. You are 5-6-year-old. Krishna comes and he says this to you. He's like, I gave you this form, but I won't, give you this form again. You won't be able to see me anymore. Those who are incomplete in service and who are not completely free from all material taints can hardly see me. O virtuous one, you have only once seen my person, and this is just to increase your desire for me, because the more you hanker for me, the more you will be freed from all material desires. So what do we understand? This longing is actually the goal. Like the goal is meeting for sure, but meeting would not create that much, killing of our karma or elevating of our consciousness, what our longing would do. So Krishna is saying very clearly here, this is just to increase your desire for me. And because the more you hanker for me, the more you long to associate with Krishna, the more you will be freed from all material desires. So that just simplifies the entire process of Krishna consciousness, right? Srila Prabhupada makes a point, always go back to Godhead in this lifetime. Go back to Godhead in this lifetime. And how? By longing for Krishna, by doing all the spiritual practices required to go back to Krishna. And that will help in getting us free from all material desires. This is Krishna saying this. And by service of the absolute truth, even for a few days, a devotee attains formed and fixed intelligence in me. What is Krishna saying? Even for a few days, by service for the absolute truth, even for a few days, a devotee attains firm and fixed intelligence in me. Consequently, he goes on to become my associate in the transcendental world after giving up the present deplorable material worlds. So what to speak of all of us? Like imagine just few days, Krishna is saying, just few days of, longing for the absolute truth, serving devotees, he's saying, consequently he goes on to become my associate in the transcendental world after giving up the present deplorable material worlds. So must go on. Krishna is inspiring us by saying this, that few days. But we should try to get all the opportunities that comes our way to serve devotees, to do our swadharma of chanting 16 rounds attentively, following 4 regulative principles. Always try to make an effort to serve devotees, because this is the eternal goal for every one of us. Through this example of Narada Muni and Vyasdev, we can, like this conversation of Narada Muni and Vyasdev, we can understand these 3 important things. That sadhu sangha is the only mapdand. Many people says many people say, what is the qualification? What is the qualification for this? So a sadhu sangha will give you that qualification. It's not our qualification. A sadhu sangha or a mercy, ahituki kripa, we discussed, right? Narad Muni got ahituki kripa from serving devotees for just few days. So ahituki kripa, a sadhu sangha, because when you will associate with sadhu sangha, that's how we would all get ahituki kripa. Because imagine, go 4 or 5 years back, when we just initiated this practice of Krishna consciousness. We started associating. Damodar Babu started the movement. But back then, were we fortunate to have movement in Sudbury? I meant movement in Sudbury. But back then,
Prabhu, this is recorded, huh?
oh yeah, it's okay,
Is
Prabhu.
it live? Krishna Prabhupada started the movement. I just started in Sudbury.
And Prabhu, I already described that in the beginning. Yes. So back then, were we qualified to get what we are getting right now? Imagine somebody, I'm not going to name now, but somebody is going on a trip for 7 days, and in that trip you have all the schedules decided that you want to go here. But that person, cancels a plan for that particular day, decides to go to a temple nearby and meets a highly elevated sadhu. This is just, I'm saying how sadhu sangha plays an important role. You are not going somewhere to actually get the association of sadhu. You are going for a leisure trip, but you get that consciousness of, going to a temple. That person goes to a temple, meets that highly elevated soul, and then an arrangement happens, and that particular person decides to come to that remote location for preaching programs. And that gives all of us ahituki kripa. Such highly elevated souls, when you get their association, when you get to serve them, when you get to, massage them, or when you get to serve such highly elevated soul, that's when you get ahituki kripa. Sorry to say, but one cannot get causeless mercy by doing austerities or by, chanting this many rounds. Chanting rounds would definitely help you to bring yourself closer to Krishna. But ahituki kripa, a mercy from Krishna, how Narad Muni got that mercy that Krishna wanted to take care of Narad Muni. That mercy can only come after we serve sadhus, and that sadhu is not limited. It is any devotee. Doesn't matter, because we hear this multiple times that the only thing that differentiate devotee from a pure devotee status is just time factor. So serving any devotee will help you. So sadhu sangha, serving them, and then eventually, as we all know that things started manifesting. We will see that more opportunities will come. The more longing we would have, the more opportunities we would see. I just want to add one simple and a very small story from a Chaitanya Charitamrita that signifies the power of association and a power of humble heart who wants to associate with Krishna. Back in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, when they were doing Sankirtan in Srivas Angan, when they were doing Sankirtan, it was very private with very few people. And many of you might know that story. That those Sankirtan was very confidential. Only close associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were allowed. But once, this Brahmana, who is very austere, he was just relying on milk. He would just drink milk every day, nothing else. It was his austerity, just drinking milk every single day and then do the spiritual practices. But he had a nice association and a friendship with Srivas Thakur, who is one of the Panchatattva. So that milkman, Brahmana milkman, reaches out to Srivas Thakur. He says that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is doing Sankirtan every single day at your place. Can you please allow me to witness that? Srivas Thakur immediately said, sorry, I cannot allow that. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never allows and it is not actually permissible. But this Brahmana makes an effort, goes above and beyond to request Srivas Thakur, please allow me. I would hide somewhere in your house, but please allow me to, stay in your house and witness that form of Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Srivas Thakur says, okay, you come to my house, you hide behind this particular table, but please stay silent. And then everybody comes, Panchatattva, all the close associates. The Sankirtan movement starts. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is dancing in ecstasy. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. They are chanting. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu realizes that he is not feeling that ecstasy. And he realizes that there is someone in the house who is not supposed to be in the house. And he immediately sees that there is a Brahmana hiding behind this. And he tells Srivas Thakur, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, he knows everything, right? He knows everybody's heart. He immediately says Srivas Thakur, he says, get that milk drinking Brahmana outside. He says, get that milk drinking Brahmana outside. And Srivas Thakur realizes, oh, Mahaprabhu came to know about this particular act. And even Srivas Thakur was feeling sorry. But that milk drinking Brahmana comes out. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is scolding that it's not your austerity that will allow you to be in this particular Sangha. Austerity is not the qualification for taking part in this particular Srivas Angan's, ecstatic Sankirtana. And he scolds that Brahmana. But that Brahmana, as I said, he was very humble. He had a heart where it was the humility that was pouring out. And he was, in his heart, in his mind, he is thinking that even though Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is scolding me, he's not even focusing on what he is scolding at. He's just saying, even though Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is scolding me, how fortunate I am that I got to associate. Even that association was scolding nature from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even that scolding nature was like a very fortunate blessing for that Brahmana. So he is thinking this in his mind. And as I said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna. He knows what we have in our heart. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all of a sudden, he says that this Brahmana devotee who I am scolding, saying that the caste doesn't matter and all that, but he's still feeling happy because of my association. That's when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu calls him back. He's like, your heart, the mood of yours impressed me. And then Mahaprabhu ने उनको आलिंगन किया. And that, imagine that, just what were the qualification? He was a very good companion of Srivas Thakur. He had a very nice association with Srivas Thakur and he had a humble heart. So when Guru Maharaj says this, that at many places he says that Krishna and your mercy from Krishna will be decided on how you react to the most provoking situation in your life. So for that Brahmana, that was the very provoking situation. Like imagine scolding, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu scolding you, humiliating you in front of everyone. But even in that most provoking situation, he stayed humble. He had maintained that level of humility. And that gave him what? That gave him a hug from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is like a longing for all of us. So a sadhu sangha and constantly chanting with a very humble mood. Trinadapi sunichena taroriva sahisnima amanina manadena kirtaniya sadari. So first thing, sadhu sangha sarva shastra kahe, lava matra sadhu sangha sarva siddhi hoye. So we should always try to engage with devotees. Try to engage with devotees who are advanced. Second thing, keep our heart humble. Have that humility. Even while I'm saying this to myself. I'm not to that level. So that second thing to learn from this is always have the humility. Always have the humbleness in the heart. And in that consciousness, we should chant our rounds every single day. And third thing, as Narada Muni says, And even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, when he is instructing Sanatan Goswami, that Kubuddhi chhadiya kara sravana kirtana achirata pabe tabe Krishna racharana nicha jati nahe Krishna bhajanera yogya nicha jati nahe Krishna bhajane ayogya satakula vipra nahe bhajanera yogya. So Mahaprabhu says that nicha jati is not ayogya for bhajana, and Ucha Jati, like people from Ucha Kul, are not also Yogya for Bhakti. Like it's not Nicha Jati or Ucha Kul that makes you, Yogya, that gives you that qualification to do this bhajan. But what does? It is the Daya of Krishna. And he says, Nicha Jati Nahe Krishna Bhajanera Yogya, Satakula Viprana Hai Bhajanera. Yehi bhaje sehi bada, abhakta hinachara. Krishna bhajane nahi jati kuladi vichara. So whoever will sing this bhajan with the humble heart will get the mercy. Krishna bhajan is not about kula and jati. Krishna bhajan is not about kula and jati. It is about your humble mood. It is about your heart and in the mood that you are chanting. And then Krishna very nicely says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that Dine re adhika daya kare Bhagavan, Kulina Pandita Dhanira Bada Abhiman. People who might be aristocrat, who would be very rich, they would have that overconfidence or that abhiman, that I belong to this particular kul. But Lord gives mercy to whom? Dinere. Dinere adhika daya kare Bhagavan. Din means not just poor with money. Din means people who have that heart of not having all those prapancha or not having all those abhiman. So the third thing is, like, it's not our kul or jati that will bring us closer to Krishna or will give us Krishna prem. It is our efforts. It is our humble mood, our humble heart. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, then we should all imply. He says, Tara Madhya Sarva Shrestha Nama Sankirtan Niraprade Namalaye Pabe Premadan. So 3 things to learn from today's class is to always have association with sadhu. Second was what? What was second thing? Be humble. Trinadapi sunichena tarod. In that mood, always chant, because you will be tested. A causeless mercy will flow, but there would be provoking situation. So we would always keep that in mind. And the third thing is, it would not be our social status that would bring ourselves close to Krishna. Did Narad Muni had any social status? He was a son of maid servant, but it was Narad Muni's humble mood, serving devotees every now and then, gave that immense mercy of taking a role of Narada in his next life. And what is he doing with the role of Narada? Going all around with the veena and preaching. He is the biggest preacher. So this is the quality of preacher. Always longing for others, always traveling, not staying stagnant at one place. Our Kartu Maharaj and many other sannyasis, at this age as well, 80, 81, they travel. Because these all are followers of Narad Muni. Narad Muni always travels. We can see so many examples. Narad Muni is part of so many leelas. Prahlad Maharaj, Jagannath Puri, many other leelas. He is always there. Even Vaman Dev, when Vaman Dev appeared, Narad Muni was the one who told Bali Maharaj. So 3 things to always keep in mind, and learning these 3 things from Narad Muni's life will always give us or bring us closer to Krishna. So I'll end with a small prayer that we should all together long and keep our heart, that may Narad Muni give us the attraction toward this Srimad Bhagvatam. May that Narad Muni, who is preaching all over the world, preaching all over the universe, bless all of us to have that immense causeless mercy that he achieved. May we also achieve that. And may Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bless all of us, that may we can stay in this movement, advance together, and serve each and every devotees in these members. With that, I'll take a leave. if there would be any comments, question, I would be happy to accept that. But is there anything else that anybody would like to add? Damadachan Babu, if you would like to add anything.
Nice class.
No, Prabhu. We would be so happy if you would add few things. I would be happy to have a Vyasasana ready for you.
Sit there.
Please, Prabhu.
I'm okay.
Anything, Prabhu, that you would like to add.
Humility should not be misinterpreted also. There is a difference between a humility of a devotee and a humility of a king. Understand that. I will add to what Jaya Jagdish Prabhu said very nicely, certain points. Humility of a devotee should be exactly like how Jaya Jagdish Prabhu expressed right now. The humility of a king, however, cannot be like that. A humility, if a king stays humble in the sense that if some other king comes with taking a charge, and if the king is like, oh, Trimada Tarora Eva Sheshana. Same way a king, a father, a man who has a lot of responsibilities, a lot of dependence on him, a guru who has dependence under him, cannot stay superficially humble. That humility will in fact destroy the entire kingdom and the dependents who are dependent on that king or the leader. So humility is extremely important for a sadhaka. However, when someone is in the leadership position, humility is manifested differently. Their humility is manifested by the way they try their level best to protect the dependents. Not thinking of themselves. Not thinking of personal agendas. There are leaders of two types. I heard from a very great person. A managerial or an organizational leader, or an actual human leader. Both cannot be mixed together. Both are required in the society. For an organization to flourish, there are organizational leaders also needed. And also for praja, or the kingdom to flourish, genuine leaders are also required. Human leaders. So do not understand humility. You can accept injustice for yourself. That is humility. How we see through the lens of Shastra is that if someone, let's just say if someone is giving you lots of yatana, lots of trouble, the highest yatana for a husband will only and only come through wife. People who are not married, remember this. Once they get married, once they have kids, the highest yatna, once you have kids, will come from your own kids. Vice versa goes for the kids also. The highest yatna for kids will come from their parents, according to them. Why this happens? No one can give us yatana apart from our own karmic reactions. So all these people who are staged to give you yatana, they are not the reason behind your yatana. Our own karmic reactions are the reason behind the yatana. They are innocently just in the front of the staged actors. The Maya is just using them as an instrument to give us yatana. This is how personal yatana should be taken. When personally someone is giving you yatana, to a certain degree, this is how it should be taken. The more austerity you do, the more karmic reactions will be burnt away. But Now, if you are a leader, and all men and women will become eventually leaders as soon as you have a family and kids. Chahe you might be having only 4 people as your praja, or 2 people as your praja, or 1 person as your praja, but you will be a leader. At that time, you have to do everything possible in your power to protect them. And you cannot let your brother, your wife, your child, or someone else suffer thinking that that is their karma and let them suffer. At that time, you should not do that. From Damodar Lila, we have learned these 2 things, Daivya and Purushartha. Purusharth has to be done. But dharma ki boundary mein rehkar. So humility is a fantastic thing. We should be humble. Blunt and arrogant. Blunt people will be always assumed as arrogant. It's a fact. जो blunt होते हैं ना, blunt is directly proportional to arrogant. And the people who will never get manipulated is also directly proportional to arrogant. They are not manipulated. It's not easy to manipulate them. It's okay to be manipulated. It's okay to be labeled as arrogant. It's okay to be labeled as proudy. It's okay to be labeled as not humble person. As long as deep in the heart you know and your guru knows, guru and Gauranga knows that you have tried your level best to be humble, but at the same time you have your daitya to do, daitva to do. First thing on humility. Second thing, Jaya Jagdish Prabhu mentioned was sadhu sangha, right? Many a time situation will happen, Maya will make arrangements for us to get affected by the sadhus only. What does that mean is, Ravana came in the form of who?
To Sita Maiya?
Sadhu. To destroy the yajna of Prithu Maharaj, in Bhagvatam we will see, Indra came in the form of who? Sadhu, sannyasi. Many a times, disguised in the form of sadhu, Ravana and I don't want to say Indra, but but Indra can come. At that time, we should be smart enough to know not lose faith on sadhus, because that's how Maya will arrange. Now, how this happens in today's day and age is, and that time, bad and evil were on different universe. That happened on different, same planet but different kingdom. But in Kali Yuga, the bad and evil are in the same person. So many a times, the Ravana within us, or the Kumbhakarna, or the Indra within us, within the sadhu, not a Siddha sadhu I'm talking about. When a sadhu is not yet at the pure stage level, Shuddha Bhakti. Once at the Shuddha Bhakti, at the Siddha Swarupa level, there is no Ravana in that person. There is no... Indra is the king of heaven. What to speak of ordinary people, but still he has messed up so many times. The Ravanical qualities in some of the devotees, like for example, Tirth Gauranga may have issue with Dev Mukund Prabhu, or Dev Mukund may have issue with Krishna Kishora Prabhu, or Krishna Kishora Prabhu may have issue with Jaya Jagdish Prabhu, Jaya Jagdish Prabhu may have issue with Gaurav Prabhu, Gaurav Prabhu may have issue with Bhuri Punya Prabhu, and Bhuri Punya definitely will have issue with me. At that time, many times we will always see, साला काय का डिवोटी है रे 16 वाला करके मेरा इतना खून पी गया ये. And sometimes what will happen is, ये पब्लिकली इतना, दिस पर्सन इज सो पब्लिकली बनता है, टम 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 मस्त तिलक करता है और धोती वोती पहन के जाएगा और फिर सोला मला करता है और फिर चुपकी से चाय पी लेता है, या तो फिर दामोदर चरण प्रभु के सामने तो ऐसे बोला कि बाहर का नहीं खाऊंगा, मांस मच्छी जहां सेम है वहां पे नहीं खाऊंगा, और आज तो पिज्जा खा लिया 4 हाथ से. The more you will focus on these points, the more you will lose faith in sadhus. This is also Maya's arrangement. Understand that. So who can focus on this point is one who can only correct them and still love them and still take them as a devotee, still see them that they are a devotee, they will be pure devotee eventually. Only a person who has that vision to see that, okay, these are pure devotees, eventually they will be. Without saying that you are not qualified. Just because you drink tea, you are not qualified to sit on a Vyasasana. So only such a person. Bomb. Only such a person who is on the authority can find and eliminate such faults in the person, in another person, in the sadhaka. Other people should not find such faults. ये चेतना बहुत खतरनाक चीज है. माया ने इतना मस्त ट्रैप बना के रखा है ना, फुल प्रूफ. That is why we need gurus and sadhus to make you identify this trap. ये षड्यंत्र है, फंसना मत इसमें. That's all, Prabhu.
Prabhu, Mataji, if you have any questions to ask Prabhu.
Hey, ask udhar, huh? Oh.
Can I ask both of you? Ask Prabhu first. Okay, Hare Krishna. I have like generalized one. It would be.
Why? You are very much capable. Hey, he gives better class than me, huh? And he reads more than
ask
me.
Prabhu, please. I'll get two perspectives. You both can give answers on that.
ये हमको लड़ा